The 2014 Sunday Tribune Jeep Hill2Hill Mountain Bike Marathon is proudly brought to you by the Sunday Tribune and Jeep Apparel. Nine years of KZN's ultimate mountain bike marathon. No guts, no story. Let's take a look at the history of this epic event. The inaugural race in 2006 exceeded all expectations, with the leading riders unanimous in their opinion that the racecourse between the cities of Pietermaritzburg and Durban is one of the best in the country. Burry Stander and Tanya Raats were the first riders to claim the top of the podium. In 2007, it was defending champion Stander that claimed an exciting victory in a sprint finish for the line after 105 kilometers of tough racing. In the women's event, defending champion Tanya Raats had to settle for second behind Amy Jane Mundy. 2008 saw atrocious muddy conditions as the riders struggled to the finish. Burry Stander continued his dominance and went on to record his third win in as many years. In 2009, it was Pietermaritzburg's Brandon Stewart who cruised to a decisive victory. Samantha Oosthuizen dominated the women's event from start to finish. The following year, Max Knox emerged victorious after an exciting duel between David George and defending champion Brandon Stewart. Hungarian Esther Erdely besting defending champion Samantha Oosthuizen by a convincing margin. In 2011, the searing heat left many riders struggling to finish the race. Burry Stander proved his international class when he beat off a massive challenge from the best riders in the country to win his fourth Sunday Tribune Jeep Hill2Hill. After days of steady rain, the 2012 riders were faced with a tough, muddy journey, and only about half the race entrants were on the start line at World's View. At the finish, Max Knox had ridden the country's best riders off his wheels and secured his second Hill2Hill victory. In the women's event, Ishen Stopforth successfully defended her title. Last year's race saw Rourke Cruiser winning a thrilling three-way sprint for the line and recorded a new race record in the process. In the women's race, Jeannie Dreyer was simply in a class of her own as she broke away early and rode a solo time trial to victory.
No guts, no story. If you don't risk it, you won't make it, hey?
If you want to finish this race, you're going to have to really put everything on the line and just push through it.
If you're not willing to really take some pain and really, brave the steep hills and the really rocky downhill single track that people fly down, then you're not going to remember it at the end of the day, and you're not going to have a story to go home and tell all your mates, and you're not going to feel like you've achieved something.
An early start sees a quick descent from World's View through the forest single track and into Pietermaritzburg. Some sublime single track and technical riding will test riders' skills as they make their way to the halfway mark at Cato Ridge Golf Club. Bartlett's Hill is the toughest climb of the race, as it takes riders from under the N3 and up to the 4th water table at 68 kilometers on their way to the finish at the Shongweni Polo Club. Pre-race registration takes place at the Shongweni Polo Club on the Saturday morning as riders register with rogue officials and collect their well-stocked goodie bags. Some keen cyclists even opted to use the shorter 45-kilometer race on Saturday as a warm-up ride for the main event the following day, while others opted to save their legs and simply chill out and support friends and family taking part in the 45-kilometer event. Starting from Cato Ridge Golf Club, the route follows the same course as the 105-kilometer event, encompassing some of the most difficult climbs of the main race, making this 45-kilometer event no less of an achievement for riders taking part. It was Alan Hatherley that left all other competitors in his wake as he stormed home to take a comfortable victory in the 45-kilometer event. Bianca Hoare took a comfortable victory in the women's race. Out in the front of the 105-kilometer event, we join Jeep team rider Matthew Beers as he flies through the forest section at World's View and down into the Maritzburg CBD.
Hi, my name's Matthew Beers. I'm from Stellenbosch. I'm here to race Hill2Hill and I'm pretty excited to get it started.
Racing up front, the normal sort of tactic is to try and get down the single track quite quickly off World's View and then across town. And then normally a big group forms as you're going through Bisley. And the exact same thing happened this year. So, and you don't really want to work too hard at that sort of point in the race. You know there's a lot of racing coming up. So judging it, you look down at your speedo and you've already done 26 Ks and you've flown through the race. So from that sort of point of view, it's a very quick race in the beginning, but it comes to bite you later. If you set yourself up too early and you push hard, early on you can really pay for it going up the last bit of climbing. I think the last 45 Ks there's about 900 meters of climbing, so it's a good hard 45 if you're going to be doing that alone, standalone. Whereas now you add an extra 60 Ks in the legs, it's quite tough, yeah.
What I've heard, it's a really fast race. There's going to be a lot of tactics involved. It's going to be a really tough day out there, so it should be fun.
In the front of the ladies' race is 2013 winner Jeannie Dreyer. Jeannie leads Candice Neethling and the rest of the women's peloton into the Bisley Nature Reserve.
So in the beginning, everybody started as a bunch and we rode the single track and the district roads all together. And as soon as the Queen of the Mountains came, as I said, Jeannie went for it. And I never really saw her after that. It was kind of, I rode my own race. I saw her on some of the rises and I was like, sure, I don't know if I can get there. But yeah, I just kept riding my own race and kept stopping at the water points and drinking a lot.
Jeannie Dreyer splits the pack as she surges ahead to claim the Queen of the Mountain Hotspot prize at the top of Friesland Hill.
So Hill2Hill is always a bit harder than other marathons even because the women have to race 75 to 80 kilometers and today was I think 105. So for me that's extremely long, especially because I'm used to racing 1.5 hours, but with a bit more intensity. I knew that I couldn't go hard because I knew you only have so many cards to play and you got to save them till the end. So especially in my case, because if I can overtake someone with speed who's used to riding a marathon, then that's when I can get the better of them. So I saved my speed until the end and just rode the 100 Ks like one hill at a time, not trying to think too far ahead, but just in the moment, and yeah, looked after myself.
So Hill2Hill is always a good one. It's got, there's defining characteristics. It's that point-to-point racing as opposed to out and back stuff. And I grew up about 5 kilometers away in Hillcrest as a youngster, so it's a special race for me. I've never managed to come anywhere near the podium, so to get it right this year was good for me. Dropping in through World's View, and there's always that scramble for single track just out of trouble, but invariably it comes back together as you go through Maritzburg, and then out the other side there are a couple of urban street sections which are really cool. Something that gives this race a bit of a unique twist. After that we rolled out through Bisley, and there was a big group of about 40 or 50 of us, and we went up the Friesland climb by the dairy area, and that's quite an important part from the racing point of view because it's the king of the mountains, and that sets kind of a bit of a mental precedent on who's at that point first. And I managed to sneak away with about 20 meters there, and from then on I sort of knew I had the upper hand. But for the next 30 kilometers it's quite flat and rolling, so a bit of a headwind, a bit of a tailwind at some points, and to be out front by yourself, it's definitely way too early, especially because it gets quite hard towards the end.
Yeah, Hill2Hill is a lot longer. It's 106 Ks to 75, which I normally race. But it's just you're gonna have to be really on top of your nutrition and your water intake, and also just pacing yourself. You can't go out too hard. You have to start out reasonably slow and then build your way up to survive the 106 Ks.
In the men's race, a group of over 30 riders are still jostling for positions at the front as they move past the second water point at the 43-kilometer mark and through the underpass at Eston Road and on towards the halfway mark at Cato Ridge.
I think as much as some guys out there aren't maybe all too conditioned or prepared for this race because they lead busy lives and they work jobs and stuff, that's as courageous as, I race professionally and this is my job, but for the average guy out there who takes on 100 kilometers not knowing whether he's going to finish, that can be compared and it's similar. And I think, to everyone who finished today, it's incredible achievement, and it's not easy. It gets really hard. You kind of think it's sort of easy as you drop down from Maritzburg with the cool temperature and close off roads and the tar roads, but as you come through the end towards Shangweni, it's got that special factor that it's almost like a progressive curve. It just gets harder and harder. So to all those guys who made it today and those who didn't, there's a lot of guts and glory in that as opposed to what I do, which is training and racing every day. And this is another, it's a special race, but it's another race for me.
The comrades of mountain biking. You find it, even if you don't really feel like doing it, you do it because it's on your doorstep, and if you don't do it, you feel like you're missing out. So that's why we're here every year.
Going from the bottom to the bottom of the nursery before Bartlett's climb, James got a nice gap on us on the single track coming down after his World Cup exploits. So, you know, riding single track down the hill, he put a bit of a, probably about 20-second gap, and there was enough to separate us off the back of him.
I sneaked off kind of in the climb up to the arc, just before the arc, and snuck away to climb there, and then had about 20 seconds, but they weren't able to bring it back immediately. And then mentally it's good for you if you're out front and the guys aren't able to ride back. And from there it was about an hour of racing, about 30 kilometers. And it gets progressively harder, you know, the temperature rises and you start feeling progressively worse. So you eat as much as you can, you drink as much as you can, and look over your shoulders as little as you can.
As we came out of the nursery up to the bottom of Bartlett's, James had that small gap, and Matt Beers and myself worked hard, got to the bottom of Bartlett's and really pushed to try and bridge that gap. Matt was suffering a little bit on that climb, but he got back on the flat section after that, and then we managed to work a bit together, and then he dropped off going down Woodcutter's single track and all the way to the bottom towards the arc. And then from that point, it was just, you just know that there's hills. From the bottom of the arc, it's hot, it's dry, it's hostile, and you just gotta you know, take it in your stride and just go for it.
Andrew chased me hard, kind of through to the end, and he never let that gap go. Almost, you talk about an elastic snapping, but the elastic never kind of snapped, and when it snaps, you know, your gap balloons and the time goes right out, but it really didn't. So it was a tough race right to the end, and this last part through Shongweni and through the polo fields is special to me as well, because yeah, I spent many an afternoon here after school, even down at Scuba Gorge, which was really close by, cutting trail, riding trail, crashing a lot. So it's nice to come back. I'm now based in the Western Cape, and to come back and do well.
James Reed powers his way up the final climb into the Shongweni Polo Club. He rolls under the Jeep Apparel arch and across the finish line to claim the 2014 Sunday Tribune Jeep Hill2Hill title. Less than a minute behind is Andrew Hill, posting his best ever result, not quite managing to close the gap on Reed. An exhausted Matthew Beers from the Jeep team manages to get the final place on the podium after an epic duel between these top athletes. Jeannie Dreyer and Candice Neethling are still locked in a fierce battle at the front of the ladies' race, with Dreyer still managing to hold on to an ever-shrinking lead as Neethling looks to close the gap as they make their way through the water table at the top of the infamous Bartlett's Climb.
Eventually I could start seeing her. It was about after the last water point at the Arc, 20 k's to go, I saw her going up one of those really steep hills there, and I could see she was kind of, you know, like all over the road, like she had blown a bit. And then I decided, sure, okay, if I can get there it'll be cool, and if I can overtake her it'll be even better. So I got onto her wheel with about 15 kilometers to go, and then there was a really steep killer hill at the end, well 10 kilometers to go about. And I decided if I can make it up there, I would get a nice gap, which I did, and she actually, I think, unclipped and had to walk. So that was where I got away. And then the last 10 kilometers was beautiful single track along the river. I really enjoyed that because single track's my strong point, coming from a cross-country racing background. So yeah, that was played out perfectly for me, and the last 2 kilometers was extremely painful. I kept looking behind me to see if Jeannie was there, but yeah, I'd managed to ride away, and yeah, enjoyed it.
An elated Candice Neethling crossing the finish line to record her maiden Sunday Tribune Jeep Hill2Hill victory. A disappointed Jeannie Dreyer has to settle for second place after having taken the hotspot prize and leading the majority of the race. Taking a look at the leaderboards, we see James Reed on top, finishing in a time of 3 hours 38 minutes, with Andrew Hill, Matthew Beers, Darren Lill and Tyron Bird rounding out the top 5. In the women's race, Candice Neethling finishes 2 minutes ahead of Jeannie Dreyer in second, with Desiree Chantal Favey, Hayley Smith and Carla van Hastien finishing within 5 minutes of each other to crack into the top 5. Another successful edition of the Sunday Tribune Jeep Hill2Hill has come to a close, as tired and weary bodies receive a free massage from the Panama Gel team, or sit and enjoy a tasty spur burger and share stories about another epic adventure which took them from Pietermaritzburg to Durban. As all the people that have ridden this race will tell you, no guts, no story. See you in 2015.
I don't know, Hill2Hill always manages to throw up something.
From hill to hill, it's very hard.
Tough! Tough! Look at my partner's face. Look at that.
Not too bad.
Very tough, man. That was tough.
Yeah, well done, eh?
That was hard.
It was tough. I already told him.
Yeah.
When you do the Hill2Hill again, you let me know. I'll go with you anytime.
The 2014 Sunday Tribune Jeep Hill2Hill Mountain Bike Marathon was proudly brought to you by the Sunday Tribune and Jeep Apparel.